What is good, everybody? Welcome to another Gold Standard production. It's Friday, so you know what that means. It's Gold Diggers time. I'm Rob Stats Guerrero. She's Michelle Magdziuk. What's up, Michelle?
Hey. I just finished the Gold Standard episode with you and Levin from yesterday. And I have to say, I'm thinking like, man, do kids just totally ruin your vibe? Because you two have never sounded like older men in my life than the end of that podcast. And I'm like, you guys are like talking about how you don't like to do anything or go out and I'm just like, I don't know. Kate and I go on like 5 date nights a week. So the kids just kill that vibe.
Well, it doesn't help. Also, you're what, 30 years old?
31.
Yeah, I'm 38.
Okay, that's 7 years older. Don't act like you're 60 over there.
Trust me. Oh,
you're like, I leave my house to pick up my kids.
I do.
I can't. Levin thinks he's the life of the party as wet blanket Levin. Like, what is happening?
Well, yeah, I can't defend that, but take it up with him. Look, when you get to be 38 and you have 2 kids, then come talk to me about how much you're going out at night. All right, that's all I'm going to say.
I won't be able to go out as much, obviously.
Before we get started here, I want to remind everybody, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and rate, review, and follow the podcast. We're going to get into Trey Lance breaking 49ers Twitter, George Kittle attempting to break me on Twitter. We're going to get into all of that. But before we do, I want to read a couple reviews because like we always say, if you leave it, we read it. This one comes from ND Niners fan, 5 stars. Love the shows is the subject. Love all the shows you guys put together. I really appreciate you put this together quicker than Kyle sending out the field goal unit on 4th and 1 at the 10. Well done. Stats, you've told us to be aware of what certain beat writers talk about as the mouthpiece of the organization. What should we make of Matt Mayoko talking about Trey Lance's upside and what it could look like if he reaches the next level on a few different occasions? Now that you have a show with Grant, will we ever get a show with Levin and Michelle? What do you think, Michelle?
What do you mean that you have a show? We have a show.
No, but a show with you and Levin?
Oh, that could be fun. But it would have to be like a debate show. Even though he did agree with me about the Steelers. We saw eye to eye on that.
Stunner.
So we're moving closer,
We're going to get into all the Trey Lance stuff and the reaction to it. So I'll answer that question in a minute. Scotty P80 says, 5 stars, favorite podcast. Love the show. So much great content with great people. I find Stats' pessimism on how he views the team's feelings about certain players or situations hilarious. Who would have thought the human wet blanket would be the one voice of reason? Keep up the great work. Apparently, there's a lot of people that don't like how I view 49ers players, some of them on the 49ers, which we will get to. But first, Michelle, we got to start with the thing that broke 49ers Twitter yesterday, and that is the video of Trey Lance, who was working out with Patrick Mahomes, and he was throwing, and 49ers Twitter went absolutely nuts. Here is the video of Trey. If you're watching on YouTube, of course, now it's frozen and it's not working, which is just awesome. But I'll get that up and running again. But people lost their minds on this video, Michelle, and I want your objective analysis before I give my take on it.
I mean, it's really hard to give any analysis when you don't know the speed. I mean, it's in slow motion. Can we get a video that's not in slow motion? Have you seen one? We don't have one, right?
No, I don't.
So that doesn't really help. And then who was it? I think it was Dave Lombardi. He posted the 2 side by side, one from last year, one from this year, but they weren't the same speed. So you can't tell how much faster it is or how much, like, we really want to see how much quicker he can get it out. And it does look like it's a little bit tighter, a little bit quicker. My biggest takeaway is it's a spiral. And how many times have I made fun of Trey Lance with his wobbly balls? I call it wobbly balls. He has wobbly balls. And I got mad at him how many times for that. This pass was a spiral, so good for him. But that's the only thing I could take away from that. It's in slow motion. You need it in slow motion, and then also on a fast, like, I don't know. I can't really take much from one pass in shorts.
Thank you so much. All right, let's see if I can get the video. It might have music on it. Let's see here. There we go. We can mute the music. We don't need to see that. This is a Preston Smith photography put this out. So there's the drop back pass. It's a nice spiral. Here's the other thing. Was it in stride? Did the receiver have to jump for it? We have no idea. We don't know. And people are going nuts. And David Lombardi, like he said, is saying, look at the improved mechanics. Look at this video from last year. It's like, When did Trey Lance make all these enhancements, by the way? When he was rehabbing his ankle injury for the past 6 months? Like, how? Ugh. I love Trey Lance. You know this, Michelle. I've been on the Trey train from the second he was drafted. But what are we doing here? What are we doing here with this? We're analyzing this thing like it's the friggin' Zapruder film.
Hey, at least it's good. It's good news, right? Everything everybody's talking about, oh, look, Trey Lance. And it's been such like shit on Trey Lance month with Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold. And them not like, I think it was Ian Rappaport was on and he didn't even mention Trey Lance's name. And it was all Sam Darnold's the starter. Like, at least now, like, I'm happy with this where it wasn't a bad pass and they're showing that. Like, it was a good spiral. That's all I take from it. If he is quickening his release, awesome. If he's working on that, I think what's the biggest news is that he's working with Patrick Mahomes. I actually think that is a big deal. Like getting to work with him and having him, you could kind of see how he's doing things. He can help you out. He could be your mentor. I think that is the biggest takeaway from this video.
It sure as shit ain't sad. I'll tell you that. I mean, good. The more time you can spend with Patrick Mahomes, good. But I just think that people are going crazy. And, like perfect example, NBC Sports put out an article with this tweet in it. And it said, Trey Lance shows off improved passing mechanics. And for all the people that always like to scream and shout at me that everything I say and everything I write is clickbait, that article from NBC Sports Bay Area, that's clickbait. Clickbait is positive. Trey Lance didn't show off any improved mechanics. It's one throw against no defense where we can't even see the receiver. Like none of that is evidence of improved mechanics. None of it. But damn, we throw it out there because it's April and the 49ers don't have any draft picks, until the 3rd round. And we're all looking for some hopium. And I get that.
Well, they might have draft picks when they're using this video to try to trade Trey Lance in the 1st round.
Right. Like I look, if you want to have hope for Trey Lance, great. I still have hope for Trey Lance, but this video is not proof of anything. That's my only takeaway.
I'm just like I said, I'm so excited to see a spiral. I was so sick of I've never seen, well, I mean, I'm sure I have, but how many times can a professional quarterback throw a wobbly ball? I do not know because I could throw a goddamn spiral. Get out there and keep throwing spirals. And I don't work on my mechanics. It's not that hard to throw a goddamn spiral.
We've seen the video evidence of you.
And I'm better now, so maybe I did work on my mechanics. I'm going to take another video.
Yeah, I just do not get it. And I thought of you immediately when I saw that spiral because I was like, oh, Michelle's going to be happy because apparently the pass doesn't count. If it's not a perfect spiral, it doesn't count. You don't get the yards or the touchdowns.
It can't be every pass is wobbly.
It can.
That's my issue.
It can if they get there. All that matters is they get there when they need to.
It makes it harder to catch. Have you tried to catch a wobbly pass compared to a spiral? It's very different.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
Kate, my wife, sometimes she can throw a good spiral. Sometimes it's really wobbly. You know what one's easier? The spiral to catch.
That's true. If only we had professional receivers on the other end.
I am a professional receiver.
So that set 49ers Twitter ablaze yesterday. And you kind of mentioned it, but you're right. Like it made me, I kind of forgot how much, as much as he gets crapped on by a lot of fans, there are a strong contingent of Trey Lance fans out there from the 49ers fan base that do look at stuff like this and say, see, that's the guy. And it was a little bit nice to see because you're right. Trey's been sort of taking a beating this offseason.
Yeah, personally, he needed this video. He needed to be out there. I hope he was on Twitter yesterday just watching everyone be freaking out. If I was him, I'd be posting a pass every single day. Just take your best one, have your agent post it because people love it. And it finally is having people talk nicely about you instead of just shitting on you and saying your career's over before it even started.
Right. And that's the other aspect too. And he did put it on his Instagram. So yeah, he threw it out there.
Okay.
Like it's one throw, right? What if he threw 80 passes and this was the only good one? That's the other thing we don't know. Again, it sounds like I'm poo-pooing it and I don't mean to, but I'm glad he's throwing. I'm glad he's back. I mean, clearly he's up and working out and moving around. That's obviously a good sign because, he's coming off the second ankle surgery. So that's good. But there was just so much unknown. And the reaction to the whole thing, I just found incredibly amusing, including Michelle from one George Kittle. And that is what started a crazy day for me yesterday on Twitter. For anybody that doesn't know, George Kittle is one of many 49ers players that liked the tweet of the video of Trey Lance throwing. And somebody on Twitter, Coach Yak, happened to go through George Kittle's likes. Maybe that's an activity that person participates in regularly. I don't know. But went through the likes and saw that George Kittle liked the video and tweeted about it. George Kittle likes what he sees with his quarterback. Kittle apparently was having an active Twitter day yesterday, saw it and said, all you guys going through likes looking for stuff, and tweeted a GIF from the movie Spaceballs. Fantastic movie. I love it. It's an old movie, and there's no captions on the GIF. It's people talking. And if for anybody that's seen the movie, the dialogue from the GIF is, we ain't found shit. That's what they actually say in that clip. But there's no captions, which to me says George had to know that movie to put, because you're not going to pick that GIF if you don't know what they're saying in it. That wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I tweeted to George, new respect for you after the Spaceballs GIF, because I thought that was pretty cool. George is a younger guy right now, and that's an old movie. So the fact that he knew that movie, I thought was pretty cool. Well, apparently George did not like that because he quote tweeted me. He wrote, for sure, man, with a little, I don't know, was that like a hang 10 emoji? I'm not sure what you call that. And then he quote tweeted a picture of a previous tweet I had about him that said that he wouldn't finish his contract with the 49ers. Well, that was it, Michelle. R.I.P. my mentions, because that was it. George Kittle dunked on me. I'm a loser. I'm a freak. I'm terrible. And that was all anybody wanted to say for the rest of the day.
Yeah, it's not like you said George Kittle sucks or anything. There's a lot of good players who end up not finishing their contract with the team they signed it with. I didn't think the tweet warranted him crying over it. Also, stop searching your name on Twitter. Like, these athletes search their name just looking for shit to get mad about. It's like,
yep,
you have to have very busy lives. You are professional athletes. Like, I know you're not just sitting around with all this time. Use your free time more wisely. That's all I have to say. How much free time can they really get to spend with their family? They get very, very short off seasons where they don't have to do stuff, because even during the off season, there's so much shit to do. When you have a couple weeks, why don't you spend it with the people you love instead of just goddamn searching your name like a weirdo? Stop being a weirdo. Like, I think that's weird of George Kittle to be searching his name, because how else did he see it? Does he follow you?
No, he doesn't follow me. He definitely doesn't follow me anymore. I just think it's weird. Yeah, because like cap casualties are a thing. They happen every year. It's not wild to think about. And I don't know why people got so mad at me for it. If you look at George Kittle's cap number in 2023, this year, it's going to be $18 million. In 2024, it's going to be almost $20 million. It's going to be 19.8. And in 2025, it drops down a little to $17.5 million. Those are huge cap numbers for a tight end. He's going to be 32 in 2025. We know he's injured. He has a torn labrum already that he hasn't had surgery on. He hasn't played a full season in like years. I think since 2018, he hasn't played a full season. It's not the wildest thing in the world to think that the 49ers are going to look at the end of that contract and say, hey, George, you know what? We'd like you to take a pay cut because we don't think your production has matched this salary cap number. And George, and totally within his rights, is probably going to say, hell no, I'm not taking a cap hit. And then guess what happens? He either gets traded or he gets cut. Like, this is not a slight on George Kittle. It's just how the NFL works.
And no matter what, it's the player. The player can, dunk on you any way possible. And then they could be completely wrong. It doesn't matter. And every single fan is going to come at the media person. Remember when Adam Schefter tweeted that J.K. Dobbins is most likely not going to be ready for week 1. J.K. Dobbins had a freaking meltdown, crybaby about it during the summer. And guess who wasn't ready for week 1? Like, at that point, you should have to come back and own up to it. And like, that's like, you teared this person down when you were wrong. Like, George Kittle has no idea if you'll still be on the 49ers to end his contract. You don't know. These players, really good players, don't last throughout full contracts all the time. They either get traded, get cut for money. Like, it happens. And it's not like you said George Kittle sucks or anything. I don't know. I'm on your side here. I'm on your side.
Thank you. And that's what I tweeted back at him. I was like, well, we'll find out who's right. Like, you're trying to take a victory lap. There's 3 years left on the deal, dude. Like,
and you just tweeted it. So it's not like it was years ago and he's still there.
Like, what are we doing here? And yeah, if they cut you this year, the cap hit would have been $21 million. If they cut him in 2024, it's 10.45. If they cut him in 2025, it's only 4.6. So all of those things point to me possibly being right. I didn't just pull this out of thin air. That is the crazy, crazy thing about this whole thing to me. But you know what? 49er fans don't want to hear it. They love George Kittle. There's no
He's a very
possible
lovable
way.
guy.
He's a cartoon character. But
Well,
I
now
just
you're not gonna like him because of the tweet, but he's a really funny guy.
No, his jersey's hanging up behind me. It's been hanging up forever, the George Kittle jersey. I like George Kittle, but that doesn't change what might happen with his contract. And, the two things I love from 49er fans that you hear all the time is, well, no, he's going to be on the team. Look, the cap's going up. You're not taking into account the fact that the salary cap is going up. Yes, I am. Like, do you not think I know how this works? Like, yes, the salary cap is going up. And they're like, oh, the quarterback room. Look, it's a cheap quarterback room. There's going to be plenty of room. We have no idea. Brock Purdy may never be the same again. Trey Lance may stink. And you know who's a free agent in 2024? Kirk Cousins. So the Niners may sign Kirk Cousins next year. Then guess what? Poof, there goes your cheap quarterback room. So there's so much stuff that can happen between now and the end of the contract. I was amazed that people just refused to see it. They didn't want to look at facts. They didn't want to look at evidence. They didn't want to look at anything because George Kittle is funny and they like him.
Yep. But also, like, it was just what just popped up in my head while you're talking. I feel like Trey Lance could play like MVP level this year, and they'll still be like, we don't know about Trey Lance. Let's look into Kirk Cousins. Like, like no matter what Trey Lance does at this point of his career, the 49ers are never going to give him the full opportunity. So we'll see. I do think the 49ers make some splash during the draft this year, whether it be Trey Lance trade or Brandon Ayuk trade. I think they do something where they end up getting a high pick.
Interesting. That I want to know. For those that don't know, Michelle is a researcher for NFL Network. She has all sorts of connections and contacts and people around the league.
I don't. I really, really don't. This is just me making stuff up out of thin air. And
no, you don't do that.
I do think the 49ers are going to do something wild. They are treating this Trey Lance thing way too weird. And I do think when Ian Rappaport and all of them were talking on NFL Network and them not even like bringing up Trey Lance, like I feel like they might know a little bit something more than I do. I did want to get into just like how bad Sam Darnold is. Can we talk about that real quick? Like we already know he's like the worst over the last 5 years or whatever, but can we just talk about like the people he's in groups with?
Yes, in 1 second, I just want to point out, I can't remember the insider who it was. Was it Rappaport? It was one of the insiders responded to the Trey Lance video, and they were like, oh, good to see Trey Lance looking good out there. Maybe he can rebound. It's like, hold on. You were the dude that was just skipping over him, not saying anything good about him. Now, all of a sudden, you're trying to glom onto this video. I just thought that was weird. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So this is my whole thing. If Trey Lance is still there this year, it's Sam Darnold cannot win over him. I feel like people just think you can plug in any quarterback into the system because Brock Purdy did so good and they'll be fine. And they will be better than what they were before. But like, can we remember all the other quarterbacks that sucked in Kyle Shanahan's system? Like there was a lot of them. It was Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy who have been good so far in the system. And then the Nick Mullins and the CJ Beathard's and the Brian Hoyers, like they weren't good, right? But there's been 8 quarterbacks since 2010 to have a sub 80 passer rating over the first 5 seasons in the NFL since 2010. And I use a minimum 750 pass attempts. So meaning they actually had to start some games. That was Sam Darnold, Mark Sanchez, Christian Ponder, Blaine Gabbert, Brock Osweiler, Brandon Weeden, Colt McCoy, Chad Henne, and then Geno Smith. So you got 1 out of 9 there that ended up resurrecting their career, right? And that took him how many years in between? He didn't start a game from like 2015 to 2022. And he was with the Seahawks for a long time before he got his chance and he looked good. There's just, yes, I get he's getting a new chance possibly with a much better team and a new coach, but he's much more likely to be one of these guys than all of a sudden a good quarterback just because he's with Kyle Shanahan. he's like Mark Sanchez to me, where both started with the Jets. Mark Sanchez was a 5th overall pick. So just like Sam Darnold, guess what? He spent 4 seasons with the Jets, and then he went to the Eagles, started 8 games. He was a little bit better, by a little bit, still terrible, but a little bit better than what he was with the Jets. And then from there went to Dallas and then to Washington. Like, that's pretty much what Sam Darnold's doing right now. The Jets to Carolina, where he's a little tiny bit better. Like, he's not an option for the 49ers. So I do not want them to trade Trey Lance in the draft. I'm going to be very upset if they do. I could see it happening, but they need Trey Lance to start the season, and they need to give him a chance to actually win the starting job back. And I absolutely hate that they signed Sam Darnold. I hate it. I hate every second of it, because I feel like they think they need to give him reps and chances to win just because he was once a 3rd overall pick.
Right. Kyle said it. He's going to split reps. Now, he didn't say 50-50 split, to be fair. He just said they're going to split reps. That could be 90-10 in favor of Trey Lance. We have no idea. But clearly Kyle likes him. I mean, he literally explained away all his struggles at the owners' meetings. Oh, well, he was in some tough situations.
He also liked Trey Lance.
Yeah.
It was his dude.
Well, that's the thing. Like, everyone's saying Sam Darnold used to be a 3rd overall pick. It's like, yes, so did Trey. Like, what are we doing here? And Sam Darnold has 56 games of crap on his resume. Absolute crap.
And that's the thing, too. So out of this group, Sam Darnold and Mark Sanchez both got to start 56 games in their career. That's kind of where it stopped for them, or after 5 seasons. Everyone else, like, they didn't get chances after that because they sucked. Like, you have to stop giving these guys chances because they sucked. Now, Geno Smith was in a rare situation. Many, many years later, they end up getting a chance, and he was better. He improved in a better system. I get it. It's just, also, you saw him fall back down to Geno Smith pretty much at the end of the year anyway. So, right. And you weren't winning anything with him. He was better. It's just, I can't with the Sam Darnold hype every year. Every time he changes the team, oh, there's a chance. No, there wasn't a chance when he came out of college because he sucked, and he still sucks now.
If he wasn't the 3rd overall draft pick, nobody would even be giving him a chance. Nobody would even be saying anything about him. It's literally it's just because he was the 3rd overall pick.
The dude had 1 gazillion turnovers at USC. I don't know why he was the 3rd overall pick, and it's only continued in the NFL.
Yeah, 90 combined interceptions and fumbles in 56 games. 90. And not all those are starts, by the way. Some of those he's coming in relief, and he's still finding time to give the ball away. Like, no, he's not it. It's very, very clear that he's not it. Yet doesn't matter, because Kyle liked him in 2018, and that's all that matters. So Kyle's just going to overlook all the crap to find, like,
you know what I'm doing right now? I'm being a hypocrite, because remember last offseason, I was like, well, Mitch Trubisky could be better in a better system. So, like, I guess when they signed with, like, your favorite team, you really have to, like, talk yourself into it. Guess who still sucked? Mitch Trubisky.
And guess who told you he was still going to suck?
You did. And now I'm telling 49ers fans, because I am super into it, but like, I can step back a little bit further than all you can. Sam Darnold still sucks, and he's going to still suck. He might be a little bit better than he was before because he's in a better system, but he's still going to suck compared to other quarterbacks that could be in the system.
Right. Like Gardner Minshew would have been an awesome decision. Nope. We want Sam Darnold.
I would have preferred Mike White over Sam Darnold.
Me too, because Kyle liked him in 2018. It's just a weird thing. There are those among 49ers content creators. Larry Krueger is one who's adamant that Trey Lance is going to get traded during the draft. He even said he threw out a possible deal of Tennessee that included Malik Willis, which that seems a little nuts to me. But, like, Larry is convinced that trade is happening. Other 49ers content creators are convinced that it's not happening. I hope it doesn't. I just want to see it. Let the kid play. What is so terrifying? Why do the 49ers have to sit there and clutch their pearls at the thought of their 3rd overall draft pick actually having to play? Oh my goodness. What could happen?
The thing is, if they truly have seen him and they really believe at this point in his career he cannot be a good starting quarterback, then maybe you don't want him to play anymore, because he still has trade value. He really does.
No. Because
you haven't seen it yet. And you haven't seen if he's bad or good. So this question mark, he still has good trade value. So if the 49ers believe, we don't believe in him, which I feel like they're really saying that over and over and over, then you would trade him while you can still get something. Instead of trying to start him off this year, he stinks, and then you really can't do anything about it, and trade him for very much. Because I still think they could get a late 1st rounder for him.
Sam Darnold had trade value. He went for like what did he go for? Like 4 picks to the Carolina Panthers, and he was terrible.
The thing is, you need a bad team to trade with you. So
right.
We'll see.
But yeah, I'm amazed at all the Trey Lance reaction for a guy that really hasn't done anything wrong and has barely played. For people to be this polarized about him, like Jimmy Garoppolo, we had battles over, but Jimmy Garoppolo had played a substantial amount, had played big games a substantial amount of the time. Like there was stuff there with Jimmy to argue about. There's not a lot of stuff there with Trey Lance, yet people are just as fired up on both sides of the argument.
And I would love to, you guys talked about the whole captain thing. Like how if Brock Purdy is captain, I think you didn't even bring this part up. Well, you kind of did, but didn't hit on it completely. So I just wanted to say it. Everyone on Twitter, like right when you and I would tweet about how it feels like a big deal that Trey Lance isn't captain. It's not the end of the world, but it was notable and a big deal. Everyone was like, well, who would he replace? He's only a second-year guy. He's way too young. Blah, blah. Guess what? Right now, Brock Purdy is extremely young. He's only a second-year guy. So if he ends up making it, what are those people going to say now? Because it was everyone saying, I never expected Trey Lance to be it. I don't care that Jimmy Ward left. You still have a lot of other veterans like Christian McCaffrey or
Debo
Samuel that could definitely, technically earn it or not earn it, but should have it over him because of the vet situation. That's what everyone was saying last year. So if Brock Purdy ends up getting it this year, it just shows last year Trey Lance could have won it. He could have, but they didn't want him to be a captain. Whether that was the players, whether that was a coach, somebody, either the team or the coach, or maybe both, did not want him to be captain. If Brock Purdy then gets it, and it's like, well, he's only a second year. He's super young. He's only started 7 games. He blah, blah, blah. It's like, and then there's still a ton of good veterans on the team. And I just can't wait for there to be 7 captains. I just can't, because if like one more person told me last year they can't have 7 captains, like, well, they did the year before. They did the year before, and they can have them. So stop.
Yeah, and I was screaming it at the time. They excluded
those
Trey
people
Lance.
They'll just change it around now, though. If
you know what they're going to say? They're going to say, "Oh, Brock earned it. He earned it in those 7 games. He won 2 playoff games."
I'm not saying he did. I thought he was a great leader, and I'm not saying he didn't earn it, but I think the whole excuse of last year of Trey Lance not getting it was ridiculous. And even if they were nervous about, he's not panning out, he might have to be benched. Mitch Trubisky was the Steelers captain. They benched him. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, captains, the starting quarterback should be a captain unless you're a rookie. And even then, a lot of times they are, if they're a super high draft pick, or, you just kind of are the worst player on your team, which Mitch Trubisky was. So I don't even, like, he even got captain. So this is just, that whole situation last year was silly. And our audience and a lot of the Twitter followers got really mad at us for saying it's notable. Now, also at the same time, maybe we're taking too much of it because we don't know if Brock Purdy will be named captain or not. And if he's not, then okay, maybe you guys are right. Maybe it's just about being too young. There's too many vets, all that good stuff. Like, the quarterback is not going to be captain until they, have many years with the team and they earn it. Then they were right. Cool. But if Brock Purdy gets it, like, you can't say anything about Trey Lance. They just didn't feel him last year. That's all it comes down to.
I'm pretty sure Jimmy Garoppolo was a captain in 2018, despite not really having done anything, because the quarterback is a de facto captain on your team. Whether he's got the C on his chest or not, he's a captain. He's literally the leader of the offense. So to not name him a captain is notable. And there were 25 teams that came out with captains last year when the Niners did. There were only 3 that didn't name a quarterback captain. One was the Browns, because Deshaun Watson was going to be their starting quarterback, and he was suspended for allegedly assaulting 30 different people. The other was the Seahawks, because nobody knew what the hell was going to happen with Geno Smith. And the third was the 49ers, and we all know why. And when you go from 7 captains mysteriously to 6 captains, and you tell everyone that Trey Lance was the 7th person in the vote, you're telling everyone we specifically excluded this guy. Like, Lance was ahead of Debo in the voting. So don't tell me, oh, Lance has to earn it. Debo had a monster year. He was coming off one of the most incredible historic seasons we've ever seen, and yet he was behind
This
Trey Lance.
team, like just thinking about all the things that have happened, this team is just shit on Trey Lance over and over and over and over again. And I know Trey Lance has not shown anything yet. He's really not gotten the chance, but talk about a good environment where you can thrive and grow. It's like maybe they should trade him because it feels like this is a good environment for Brock Purdy to thrive and grow. People love him. The coaches love him. They want to do everything to make sure that he feels good and he feels confident and he feels safe in his role. And it could not have been further opposite for Trey Lance, not just this year, every year that they are just like making him question whether they like him or not. And that's not, I mean, I know we all have completely different jobs, but when you feel like your managers or your leadership does not believe in you, it's hard to do your job to the fullest and feel confident and put out your best work. And it's much easier when you have leaders that like truly believe in you and give you recognition and just like really help you grow. And I'm not trying to compare our normal jobs to professional football. I get it's different, but there is something to that. And maybe behind closed doors, they're amazing to Trey Lance and they're helping him nonstop. Like maybe we're just not seeing it, but I mean, we're seeing the difference of how they're treating Brock and Trey Lance in their second off seasons. I know they did say Trey Lance was a starter, but they still had Jimmy Garoppolo on the sidelines throughout training
camp.
They
brought him back 2 weeks before the year started. Yeah, less than 2 weeks.
Even before that, Jimmy was still there because they wouldn't move on from him. And it was just, and the year prior to that as a rookie, they just gave him no love. So I feel bad for the kid. I really do. I don't think he was in the right environment to succeed in the NFL. So if they have to trade him, like, I hope he goes to a team that actually believes in him. Or I hope the 49ers start just, even if you're treating him well behind closed doors, can you treat him well out in public? Like,
that's
just because you treat your wife well behind closed doors doesn't mean you don't have to treat her well out in public. Like, you got to do both.
It's okay to give her a compliment in public, even if you're also really nice when it's just the two of you. The fact that they haven't done that publicly, I think, is notable. And it just seems like they don't value the position correctly. They don't understand how to handle the position correctly. This is not what you do with a quarterback. That's not how you develop and bring up a guy that you believe in. It's backwards. And once again, the 49ers are going to have to get lucky and find a quarterback. They're lucky that Brock Purdy ended up playing as well as he played. They didn't know he was going to be that good. They had no idea he was going to be that good, because if they did, they would have taken him earlier and they would have given him the starting job because he played better than any 49ers quarterback last year. So they just fell into Brock Purdy. And now if Trey Lance plays well and turns a corner, they will have fallen into Trey Lance because they would never have played him if Brock Purdy was healthy. They've said that if Brock Purdy was healthy, he'd be the starting quarterback. So it just seems like if they are going to end up with a good quarterback, it's going to be by accident instead of by design.
And there's some quarterbacks that just thrive on being thrown in and under pressure. And, you know, what we said, Brock Purdy's personality reminded us of Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, when you throw him into games or throw him into situations where he has to be good, that's his best self. And then you have him have the whole offseason, have a team, and, you know, you get to start this whole year and you have no pressure on you. He's not as good. We have Baker Mayfield, his rookie season, he broke the rookie touchdown record. He looked fantastic, better than any, like, especially in the Cleveland organization that's been a shithole for so long. He like made them come back to life. We don't know what Brock Purdy's going to look like. I had so much fun watching Brock Purdy. When he's a starter again next year and he performs well, I'm going to be thrilled. Like, I'm also rooting for Trey Lance, but if it's Brock Purdy, I'm fine with that as well. Right. Like, he did show a lot last year. He showed he's a winner. He showed his leadership skills. I'm fine with that. It's just, he needs to keep improving. And I don't know how you do that from last season to this season without really an off season to work on your game. And we'll just see. We have no idea. But what I do know is Sam Darnold cannot be starting. That's all I know.
Let's get some more. How come we haven't seen any Sam Darnold workout videos? Where are those at? Because he probably can't throw a pass that doesn't get freaking intercepted. All right. I think we've ranted enough. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. Again, please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network. We're getting our star rating back up there, and we need your help. So please, please, please continue to leave those 5-star ratings. And if you do, we will read it on the show. Michelle, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I don't know if you're celebrating the Easter holiday, but if you are, I hope it goes fantastic for you.
Yeah, I hope you and your family have a happy Easter and everyone who's listening. And also maybe you can get out of the house once or twice.
Yeah, I'm going to get out of the house. I'm going to leave the house right now because I got to pick up my kids from my in-laws. So there you go, Michelle.
Maybe you can get out of the house without having to pick up your kids. That's your goal for this week.
Let's not say anything crazy here. Easy, one step at a time. Enjoy your weekend, everybody.